Joe, how you doing, man?
Hey, what's happening? Happy New Year. Here we go.
Happy New Year, man. It's early, and I did double duty. I had to delay the regular show to not the right. I guess this was the irregular show for a little bit, but now they're both regular. So I had to delay the Tuesday night show to Wednesday night last night. So I did this. I went to bed, and now here I am again, man.
You're rocking it. You're filling. What did you say? You're filling the airways with Adam. I mean,
That's
come
right.
on.
I'm all over the place, man. Adam's all around you. You know, it's right there. How was New Year's for you, man?
It was good. It was nice. It was pretty low key. We just had a friend come over and made a nice dinner, and the kids were away, and so we were just having fun.
Oh, cool. That's nice to have a night to yourself with the kids out, though.
Yeah. The Raleigh was in Canada on a trip, and
I saw that. Yeah,
Aiden was over to his dad's. So.
Okay.
So it was just us. Yeah, it's cool. It was a good time. But by the time I think we mentioned last week, I got one of my resolutions is to get healthy, and I was ready by New Year's Eve. I was like, I don't know if I can do this tonight. I can't have another crazy meal, but I did, and it was fantastic.
There you go. That's how I got to feeling. That would have been by Tuesday night. I was like, I don't want any wine. I'm good. I'm done.
Right.
And I really felt under the weather yesterday. I'm happy to say I think it was just a lack of sleep and overall exhaustion. Because I feel good today. I feel all right today. It's early, and I do have questions of why I've centered my life around 5:55 a.m. wake ups on Thursday morning. But hey, look, if Keith can make it, because it's 4:30 in the morning where Keith is. He gets up and watches us, man.
That's incredible. Keith, thanks for tuning in. You know what I'm saying?
We appreciate your poor life decisions. This is good. I only mean that as in getting up at 4:30, nothing else, man. Well, I hope everybody had a good New Year. And
I do have a few follow-ups to last week. At the beginning, you need a baseline of where you are and to know where you want to go. And for me, it's weight, and I grossly underestimated how much I gained over the past few months.
Are you gonna? Okay, you're really sticking to this accountability thing. You're gonna.
It's accountability, yeah.
So publicly acknowledge that you have to set the record straight, is what you're saying.
That's what I had to do. So last week, I think I said 265. I got on the scale yesterday.
2 atoms. Yep, we went with 2 atoms. Yeah,
and it was 280. I'm 280.
Wow, dude.
I don't know why I'm laughing. I actually had the thought 280. I was huge in high school, really huge. And that's about what I weighed in high school. So I'm back to my high school weight, which is not it's not a good thing in my case.
Okay.
But I actually had the thought, I've never been 300 pounds. Should I just go for 300? And then I'll start in February. And then I was like, no, I can't do this anymore.
Well, people only see your face on the screen, and I can attest. I mean, you're a big dude, but you don't come across as like huge or whatever other horrible words people throw around. So like, and you enjoy some gym time, right? Like that's your thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I do. I go to the gym. I haven't been in a little bit because of whatever, because I got lazy or whatever.
Right.
I do. I do go to the gym a lot. Yeah.
Dude, I don't, and I need to. So do you folk like, would that give you an opportunity to like sculpt that weight and like put on like get a little jacked, or are you just going to work on getting rid of it altogether?
I think I got to work on conditioning first,
Okay.
And and start slow and diet, a little bit of exercise, and then I'll probably go heavy with weights then.
Oh, okay. All right. So a little bit of both then, huh?
Yeah, but for a time, it's going to be mostly conditioning and light exercise, aerobic, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
and then eventually maybe February, I start in on some weights. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Um, I,
The other
I
thing, the other follow up is for Christmas, I get a gift from my uncle, and this is what he sent me this year. I don't know if people can recognize.
that
It's
is the
the dude.
dude, man.
So we talked a little bit about Lebowski. Actually, I'm not like a huge Big Lebowski fan, but there's some. I mean, it's a funny movie. I enjoy it, but he really, really likes it. And I got him this sweater last year that he
Right.
can wear and everything.
Yeah,
And
you were
then he
mentioning
got
that.
me
Yeah.
this.
Mr. Treehorn treats objects like women, man.
Jackie Treehorn.
You gotta remember these little guys.
Yeah, man, it's great.
Nice marmot.
It's a nice marmot. So here's a little have you called your uncle to thank him yet?
I texted him thanks and sent him a card. Sent him a picture.
Well, if you ever really want to I don't know if it'll impress him, but if you want a reason to call him, that quote where he says that's a nice marmot, man. There's two animals in the movie Big Lebowski. There's only two. That's it. There's two animals. And they misidentify both of them. When he says it's a nice marmot, it's a ferret. Do you recall the other animal in the movie and what they mislabel it as?
No. I know I don't.
It's Walter's I think his daughter, but maybe his niece's dog. And he says it's a show dog and it has papers, man. And it's like this Yorkie mutt. It is not, I think he calls it a Pekingese or something, or a Shih Tzu. And it is not. So the only two animals in the movie are completely mislabeled both times. There you go.
It's funny you bring up show dogs and show animals.
Wow. Okay.
Because I've thought about this since I started talking to you all. Even in the past, I met this past month. In the past month, I met this woman who shows cats. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Like show cats.
It sounds like another chapter in Dante's Inferno to me.
You don't like cats?
No, absolutely not. And I'm horribly allergic to them. I think they're the most selfish of all the animals, which is hard because humans are pretty selfish, but cats even more so. Yeah. Go ahead though. She has show cats.
So she has show cats, which I just thought, well, I've never heard of that. And I asked a bunch of questions about it. It was in my other job, and I was like, it's funny how I call that. It's funny how I call that my other job.
I love it. That means you're embracing this. That means you're in, man.
I am.
My other job.
My other job.
Joe's got a job.
So and then I asked, but then I became this person, and I was like, I have to ask you like 100 questions about showing cats. And then I met a guy. He worked on my car got bashed up a few years ago, and I took this car to the shop, and he was a guy. I loved this guy. His name was Jim Batts in Tampa. If anybody knows Jim Batts, he was awesome. But I would go into his office and he'd go, "This is what's wrong with your car," and then we'd talk for about an hour about stuff, right? So, but I started to learn about him, and he trained squirrels. And then there were like squirrel competitions that he would bring these squirrels to.
Really?
Yes. And they would do they weren't like show squirrels. They were like trick squirrels.
Yeah. Okay. But isn't life great? Like, if you just stay curious, There's all these,
Yes.
there's all these people out there. Look, there's 14 of them watching right now. Like we're
Yes.
everywhere. So there wasn't just one dude training squirrels. There's a squirrel training community.
Yes.
And you encountered both of these people or both of these insights just this week?
No, not this week. This was a few years ago. But it always stuck in my head because I always liked this guy. And actually, I have this. That's not the only mechanic that I have hours-long conversations with. There was another guy who was like a political junkie, and we would talk and talk and talk. And then, but this guy, we just started. He was just such a nice guy, and we would just start talking. And he told me, and he used to show dachshunds. Actually, that was like,
okay.
So that was like the more normal thing. And then he was like, the other thing I do, and I was like, yeah, tell me.
Well, and so that means somewhere in his life, somebody was like, "Hey, man, I can get you a squirrel," and he was like, "Yeah, I think I like that. Let's try it." I love it. Let me clarify with Pope County Pythons. I'm not bashing cat ladies. It's the cats, the animals themselves. The ladies are fine. I'm good. We're nothing, no bashing ladies here. It's the cats.
And I just want to go on record. I was not the one bashing cats. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to be. That was Adam. Adam hates cats. Adam is a big cat hater. The
hate is such a strong word
in that direction.
I would just be thrilled if I never encountered another one in my life. That's all. That's all. But seriously, I'm sure people ask the same thing of like, well, how did this whole snake thing happen? But like the dude was like, the guy made a choice. He was like, I'm gonna get a little jump rope and a squirrel, and I'm gonna teach this little guy to do his thing. Yeah. Well, that's cool.
How many different morphs in the squirrel world are there?
That's true. I wonder then, is there a YouTube squirrel community hub? Because
it probably is somewhere.
Keith said I have seen like those crazy videos of a squirrel water skiing.
I don't know if it was that kind of thing. So maybe it was like they had a pool and there was water skiing. That squirrel can water ski.
Yeah, Keith has a point. Look, I swore off for years, literally years on my shows. I swore off ever owning live rodents, and now look at me. It's a whole new. Sun's coming up, new light.
You're
shining.
elbow deep in rodents.
I am elbow deep in rodents.
Sounds very attractive, by the way.
That's right. Hey, on the odd animal thing, one more little idea. And so, how minor league baseball teams have this great tradition of total nonsense at their live, like the Savannah Bananas are the world-renowned kings of slapstick minor league ball. Well, the Jacksonville team was the Jacksonville Suns for quite a long time. Now they're the Jumbo Shrimp, but they were the Jacksonville Suns, Expos farm team. Their shtick, when they were losing in between innings, they had a monkey that was dressed up as a cowboy that rode a dog around the bases, and it was called the rally monkey. That's what they did. You can Google it up, man. The Jacksonville Suns rally monkey. That little thing. He's dressed in like a sombrero and a cowboy hat, and he just like rides the dog like a yellow lab type of dog around the bases, and that was the rally monkey that was there for the Jacksonville Suns, man.
I hope that monkey was well taken care of, and the FWC wasn't after him.
They probably had to check his permit. That's for damn sure in Florida. Yeah. Well, okay. Enough of the rally monkey. What's on your mind this week, Joe? I know you got questions.
Yeah. What is the animals or pets, personalities, commodities, and art? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just so I said last week I was reflecting over the past year
Right.
And thinking about, you know, what we have talked about and what I have learned, and some of it that has stayed in my head and some of it has completely left my head. But one thing that I always come back to is how we speak in general about snakes, about reptiles in general,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So I think the first episode there was like this great, I think there was this great conversation about what a snake can do for you, and like and how it changes you, and how it helps you through certain things. And um so there was very much this like relationship oriented uh, uh there was this relationship that was based on like, oh, there's a connection between me and this snake. And I understood that. I was like, oh, so it's kind of like a pet. And then we started to talk about how it's kind of, if you're a breeder, you're working together to kind of come up with different looks, different
Mhm.
the way the snake looks. So you
Yeah.
breed them together, and then that's a years long process. So it's kind of like you have certain elements and you're putting it together, and you're like an artist. You're painting like a picture here, and it comes out in this creature that you've bred their parents, right? So okay,
Right.
so like there's this work of art, but I think what we've mostly talked about is, and especially with you, we've talked about them as commodities. We've talked about them um, as you know, a business. You know,
Right.
you breed this, and then it's a business, and you sell them, and you make money doing them. So it's just interesting. I'm trying to get a grasp on how an individual who owns snakes, what is their primary relationship with their snakes? Is it a pet? Is it a work of art? Or is it a commodity that you think about trading or selling?
Yeah.
That would be my main question of the day, really.
Well, good insight. And I'm impressed. You phrased all of that really nicely, to be honest with you. And
All right.
I would say every breeder, owner, person in the audience probably has their own answer to that. And I would say to anybody who really honestly owns even any animal, but is involved in the animal. So there's like owning an animal as a pet, there's owning animals as a hobby, and then further down the spectrum is sort of being fully engaged in the animal trade.
Hmm.
And all of those are related, and they're not mutually exclusive. You can have pieces of all three. Um, Morning, Charlie. And so asking yourself where you fit into those things first, I think, gives you your own definitions and your own mission and your own vision. But it also, there's some important another spectrum to consider is legal, ethical, and moral. And I think it's important that you look at all of those as well. Legal, you need to do just to stay out of trouble. Ethical and moral, ethical is probably how the outside perceives you, and moral is probably how you look at it from your own vision and your own set of rules. So I sort of cringe when people say, oh, you treat those as commodities, because it just sounds horrible because they're living creatures.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But from a factual definition, yeah, they're resources in a business. They're assets. They are commodities in that
Right. Yeah.
way.
And
Um,
I think I used the word commodities because I kind of knew that you would bristle at that.
oh yeah.
Uh,
Oh, you'll
and
incite a response. But I also kind of want to normalize saying that. You should see, like, this is a pretty friendly chat space, But if
yeah,
I were to put up a YouTube video just for the masses to watch and use the word commodity, it would be 48 comments of you evil, soulless SOB.
really.
Oh, yeah. Because there's no context with it. Nobody digs in. Nobody seeks to understand. And if you're trying to get onto another point, and I enjoy what I forget that people don't, or what I forget what other people do or don't do. What I forget is how much I enjoy business. Other people that might like to watch movies, I like figuring out business.
Yeah.
I would rather spend 3 hours writing a badass spreadsheet that's gonna, and not just a spreadsheet to write a spreadsheet, the spreadsheet to accomplish a goal and to improve my business productivity or results. So I enjoy that. So if my content is primarily business focused, then I'm trying to get beyond a point, and I need to just use a definition that everybody understands. So I use the word commodity.
Okay.
I don't have time to spend 5 minutes going through the minutia of the nuances. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I do have to watch it. So there is that. And I think, Joe, you're mostly probably shielded from some of the negative feedback that we get sometimes, just because you go on with your day, you go to your other job and you go on with your day. But yeah, I've had people that have reached out to there was somebody who said, I'm going to have to paraphrase here. I did not pull up the quote for the show today. But basically they said, these are art. And then they said, like, you know, sometimes somebody says something so horrible and you're like, man, I disagree. But that was almost a work of art in how you just told me off there. It was fantastic.
Yeah. That happens when I say things usually, but.
So I think it was a guy, because women are smarter than to do this, but I think it was a guy, and he says, are you an artist, or are you appropriating our culture for profit? That's what he said. And I was like,
so appropriating your culture, how? What do you mean?
I don't know, man. I'm not giving this guy a time of day. Like, that was clearly was a ridiculous thing meant to just be hurtful. Like, if somebody's truly seeking to understand, I'll engage positive, negative, criticism, support, no problem. When somebody goes down a rabbit hole of gotcha, and I'm going to tell you off in the most overboard way I possibly can, that's not worth a response. That you have to move on in life from that nonsense.
Yes. I'm curious as to what it is, though, what the culture that person is talking about. Is it like because it might be kind of the issue of this discussion, because if he or she, you said, if he's like, well, I love these are my pets, you know, I love these people, these creatures. Is that snake loving, is that the culture that he's talking about? I'm just curious, because it kind of points to this question, which is,
let me play devil's, and it does point to this question. So let's suffer this fool for a moment, in my opinion, and let me play devil's advocate.
Maybe it's just poor choice of words. I don't know. Maybe he just didn't.
No, this was at the end of a long tirade. This guy was cooking this up for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah, you know. Well, let me play devil's advocate, and let's pretend that he was good intentioned. As an analogy, let's take an artist or a musician. His argument, I think, was, you're not doing this. If I were the musician, his analogous argument was, hey, you're not doing this for the art of music, for the sake of music. You're doing this to make $1.
Yeah.
As a professional musician, I can both highly appreciate the music and need to make $1 in my life to get by. And I don't think that you have to be a poor, starving, homeless artist to be considered legitimate and valuable. I think that was the analogous point he was trying to get to. So, you know, that's okay. That's his thought and his belief. And it's certainly not unique. You know, we hear that about painters and fine art all the time, that struggle.
So that was the analogy that I would use. So I would go, okay, and I'd use it in a different way, but I'd go, okay, like these are your creations here. Like if you're a painter or a sculptor or something, and you paint or sculpt something, and it's a personal thing that you're involved with. You
Yeah.
think about these things. You're and it takes years of training to do it. And I find that that's kind of analogous to what you're doing,
Right.
is you're sculpting these creatures in a certain way. So, but then you sell them. And so when you sell them, they're not yours anymore. Like, you hear about that when you're an artist, is like you create like these babies, and and when they go into the public, it's not yours anymore. It becomes everybody else's work. That's what and then they reappropriate it or somehow, or they take it and they make their own meaning out of it, so and that's an interesting, that just came out of my mouth. That they make their own meaning out of it, and if they have a different meaning from what the artist intended, then it's not the artist's fault for thinking differently about their work of art. It's
Right.
just a different interpretation.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how people think in this community? Maybe, I don't know.
Well, again, I think there's a spectrum. So there are combos and products that I won't put words in anybody else's mouth, but I know for sure people in the audience that we breed nearly solely for sale purposes. So
Okay.
you can relatively easily and predictably make an all white ball python with blue eyes. If you are snake interested, pet snake interested, there's almost nothing cooler and more eye-catching than a bright white vibrant snake with blue eyes.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
It's pretty cool. And like I say, we can do it easily and predictably, and they'll sell. They will make money. They won't make a whole lot, but they will reliably, predictably sell. They move, they're easy, they do it. So there's that end where that truly is almost a commodity business model. And then, like you say, there's the other end where, hey, it's something that we've worked on for the entirety of the time that we've been at this hobby industry business, and we enjoy it. And other people, there's a gene called Sunset right now. Very expensive gene, relatively speaking. On the one hand, people argue as it grows up, it turns into a brown log. We all know what a brown log could be perceived as. And there's other people that say, no. We haven't found the right combinations to make this the most beautiful, most amazing combination on the planet.
Okay. Got you.
And so there's that perception of different ends of it as well. So all of the answer can be yes, all of the above and pieces of all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
In this guy's tirade to me, and for the record, I never really intended to give this stuff the light of day, but when you brought up this topic last night, I was like, oh, I have content and thought. So he says to me, you're acting like the artist that charges people money because you think you can art better than they can. And at first I was like, what an offensive, horrible thing to say. And then I got thinking about it and I said, wait a minute, let's take art out of here. And let's say, oh, you're the plumber that charges people more because you can plumb better than they can. Hell yes, you do. That's why you hire a plumber. That's why you you go to a restaurant to have a chef cook for you. That's what. So yeah, I was like, what, you ever have somebody like yell at you and you're like, yeah, that's exactly how it works. Yes.
Yeah.
Like you crazy person. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think for a second that I necessarily do something better than somebody, but if I produce results that they can't get anywhere else, then yes, there's a value to it, and they can choose to pay that value or not pay that value.
Yeah.
And so like I've got this guy like yelling at me, and I'm going, yeah, you get it perfectly. That's correct. And that's where I was like, you know what, this is not worth responding to. I will be moving on, you know.
Yeah. So in those, if I look at the three things that we've talked about so far, commodities, works of art, and pets, like I'm most comfortable, or it seems most accurate to talk about it as works of art, because works of art are also bought and sold. But there's more of a technical part of this kind of art, I feel like, and maybe that's my ignorance of art, though. Maybe that's not accurate. But there seems to be, like what you're saying. If there's certain results I want to produce, I don't know I don't know if that's exactly how art works. I'm not sure.
I do have thoughts on that.
Yeah.
And I wish I could remember it. There's a video of Dave Grohl, and he's just screwing around with the band, and he goes, "Hey guys, you want to write a hit?" And they're like, "Yeah, let's write a hit." And he goes, "All right, what's a great hit always have?" He goes, "It's got to start with the chorus." He's like, let's have a boppy chorus in a major key." And he goes, "Let's make it a real anthem. So let's slow it down so the whole crowd can yell with us." And he continues on for about a minute and a half that way. And I'll be damned if they don't crap out something that you're like, holy smokes, that's a
hit.
That's a poppy hit, man. There is a formula, there is a process, there is a strategy when it comes to art, and I'll say that from a musical standpoint.
Yeah.
But in fine art and painting, and I don't know this because I'm not a painter, but I do study some of this stuff, or the thoughts of some of this. There are techniques that you use, and then you layer techniques and you layer different components of what your expertise is, rather than sit back, stare up, and wait for divine intervention and you pop out the Mona Lisa. That's not how it's going to go. As another story that I really had a great aha moment in my life, and I came to see close up, for lack of a better word, magic, but close up illusions, close up sleight of hand, close up card tricks. I have a really good buddy, brotherly kind of relationship with this guy, and he is a close up magician. And I said, "Hey Jay, you got to teach me one of these tricks, just one of them, man. That's all I want to know." And he goes, "Yeah, okay." He goes, "How about this, Adam? I'm going to trade you. You just teach me one song on guitar, and I'll teach you one trick." And I was like, "It doesn't really work that way, Jay." He goes, "Why?" I said, "Well, you gotta learn how to sing. You gotta learn how to strum on time. I'm gonna have to teach you chords." And he's just nodding. He's like, "Yeah." And then it dawned on me, it's not just one trick. It's 15 little components that he learned along the way.
Right. Yeah.
And much like Dave Grohl was joking, "Hey, let's write a hit," he goes, "Okay, let me write essentially a story that I'm telling with this trick that's going to blow people's minds at the end of it." And I tell you all of that because I see all of that going into ball python breeding.
Yeah.
You could say, "All right, guys, let's write the pop hit. Let's make some blue-eyed." We call them blue-eyed leucistic. The leucistic is the genetic condition. Blue-eyed Lucy's. Let's make a batch of Lucy's, man. These are going to be a big hit at the expo.
Okay.
Or you could say, "All right, I've learned about recessives. I'm going to layer 2 recessives. I want a brighter. I want higher contrast, so I'm going to put in a brightening codominant with a dark gene codominant," and you work towards that. And maybe that takes years for you to do, but there is a strategy and a process to all of it. And I do think that's relatable to a picture that you might say, because you can't just paint a bright picture. You're just going to get a yellow canvas because you say, "Oh, I just want the center of the sun." No, you need the contrast around the sun. So you start working in different techniques to make that happen. So you might get the the God-given or whatever divine intervention, however we choose to receive that idea, but then you have to set to your techniques of how to make that, bring that to life.
I see. Yes. Yes. I think that's a great analogy. That's really interesting to think about. And it really goes to the analogy of the work of art, except that I'm stuck on this thing of interpretation, where you create something, and then you sell it, and then a person might interpret it differently. Like, so a person might, you don't want to sell to people that are going to treat these creatures strictly as commodities either. Like, whatever, well, this is an investment or something, and I'm not going to take care of it or whatever. Right. They don't really care about it. But you're fine with selling to somebody who would interpret it differently in terms of, this is going to be my pet. This is going to be my pet, right? So I keep thinking about, and maybe this is not right. Like, so one of my favorite movies is Rocky. I love Rocky. I know it's a classic, and it seems so boring to like Rocky as a movie. I don't think of it as a boxing movie. I think of it as, this story about love and this restlessness within this person. I look deeply at this movie, and there are some problematic things about it, and I don't want to get into that. But I go, I don't, and then I hear like Sylvester Stallone, who wrote it, and then acted in it. And I listen to him talk about it, and I go, that's not what the movie's about. He doesn't know what the movie's about. I go, I don't even think he realizes how incredible this movie is. This is a great movie. So, but I'm not going to do what this guy did to you, which was like, well, this guy doesn't know what he has, what he's creating. He's not respecting what he's creating.
Or to keep the analogy going, that guy would tell Stallone, hey, why in the world would you have tried to make multi-millions of dollars on this? Why wouldn't you just show this in your living room to your other artist friends? Yeah. And to that, I'm like, you're out of your mind. This is totally, when you put it in any other light, it's totally unrealistic what this guy was on me about. And that's where I was like, I can't engage on this.
But I also think the analogy of I mean, there's such this analogy in the music world where, like, oh, you're this indie band and then you go big and then you sell out,
Right. And I've always hated that. I've always,
and is there an element of that in this community?
I don't think so. Charlie at Reagan Renee, he made a point earlier. The best I could come up with is what he's saying. I believe it is largely driven by excuse making and or jealousy. Okay. And Keith sums it up nicely too. At the end of the day, you just got to look down your own path and look yourself in the mirror and make sure that you can live with what you're doing. Analogies are so fun and useful and easy. I love punk rock music, and the second in a punk rock community that you bring up Green Day is, oh, they're horrible sellouts. Oh, they're sellouts because they got big and they sold $1 million and many, many millions of dollars. Anybody, I mean, now you might not like the politics of it, but anybody that listens to American Idiot, the album, it's a work of art, man. It is. I get chills talking about it. I still think start to finish, it's probably the best album of the 21st century. Wow. And it's phenomenal. I hold it in that high of esteem from a songwriting standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint, from a professional. It's incredibly well produced, well done. And so I think there is that jealousy where, like you suffer as a group, but if one component of the group makes it, it's so easy to turn on them and rather than support them. And I think those guys are brilliant. And yeah, is it playing in a dingy basement club ever in their future again? Probably not. And I adore those memories. I've actually seen really big bands when they first started in that setting. So there's a nostalgia and a romanticism that we miss. The first time I saw Rancid, they were opening for Pearl Jam, and Eddie Vedder was like, he apologized. He's like, guys, this ain't the venue at an outdoor amphitheater to see Rancid. And it's not. But what am I going to tell Rancid? Don't take the payday. Don't take the check.
Right.
No, they're amazing. Right, They deserve to be heard. So if after that tour, somebody went and saw Rancid in a club show, then their life was made better. So I don't get into the whole sellout thing. If you become a hypocrite, that's different. But take your payday is what I say, man. And so in that way, I don't knock any gene that somebody can sell for thousands of dollars while they can get it while it's hot, man. All this stuff is fleeting, and it'll your odds are so low to make it in any really given area of specialty. You better take what you can get while you can, man.
The place where the analogies break down, though, I think, is these are living creatures.
Yes. I agree with that. There's a extra element of consideration that has to be given. Yes.
Yeah. And that's why, and to me, where that is most readily observable is in personality. I don't know, maybe that I haven't really thought this through that well, but and I know just by visiting your snakes that there are certain snakes that have different personalities. Or would you not describe it as personalities? You would describe it as dispositions, maybe.
Yeah, I think, and this is me. This is where I'll differ from even maybe people in the audience, but certainly people across the community. I think personality is what's the word when you apply human traits to an animal? There's a
anamorphism, or what is that called?
Yeah, anthropomorphism. There it is. There we got it. All right, that's some teamwork right there. Anthropomorphism. I don't personally believe that it's a personality. I don't think a snake adores me. I think most of them put up with me. They maybe even, I think they could be conditioned to know that I'm not a threat and that I'm going to bring them food. And in that way, they probably appreciate me. Now, they do have individual dispositions. I know which snakes I own that are not pleasant. I know at a show, I have 2 animals that have been for sale for a long time that people will ask, hey, can I check that out? And I go, well, you can, but I want to tell you right now that snake's going to bite you. So if you're comfortable handling ball pythons and you have experience in that, that's fine. But otherwise, I'm not going to hand that to a child or a pet owner. So we're like the cats to the snakes. Yeah, we probably are. We that was Keith's comment there. So I don't now. Let me try and present all sides of it. There are people that absolutely do, and I'm sorry because my gut reaction is to almost poke fun at these people, which isn't fair, and I shouldn't do it because I appreciate them in the hobby. They think their snake has as much personality and love for them as their dog does, as a loyal dog. There's people that tell me, oh, my snake couldn't wait to come see me today.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't think so, but okay. And that I just have to file under, we all appreciate things in different ways. And I could be wrong. I don't know how it would ever be proven to me, but like, what a great revelation to wake up one day with like some finite proof that these have like mammalian loyalty, love, personality kind of feelings.
Okay.
Wow, that would make me even feel better about what I do. I don't personally believe that, but there are people that do, and they're passionate about it. Let me tell you, I've many times told, like, when I hand a snake to somebody to check it out, I tell them, I say, hey, keep this away from your face First, for your own protection. Secondly, if you kiss that snake, you're buying it. I'm not taking that snake back once you've had it on your mouth.
Okay. Oh, what
Because
is that
people,
rule?
oh yeah,
Why?
because people at the show will be like, oh, I'm like, get that snake away from your mouth and your face. It's filthy. It's filthy for you. It's filthy for the snake. Get it away.
And you won't take it back, huh?
I mean, I've never had to enforce the rule, but I have had several people that I'm like, back to the kid with the lollipop. I don't want the kid with the purple mouth kissing the snake. It's not going to happen.
Right. Okay. So I want to go back to one point here. Yes, that's a very good comment. But I do want to go back to this thing. If someone were to prove
Oh,
that
this
there
got
was,
you going, didn't it? Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
All right,
that there
hit me. Go
was some
ahead.
kind of personality to these snakes,
Yes.
would that cause you to do things differently in your business?
No,
Or would that
actually,
cause you to do things differently in how you were to raise them, breed them? Even raise them is a weird way to put it, but
right.
to you're not rearing them, you know.
No, I'm
You're,
not. I'm not
yeah,
birthing them. Yeah.
yeah. You're okay. Would it change the way that you treat them?
No, and this I have to make sure I phrase this because I never really thought about this question. A lot of times I think through my answers and I want to, be on brand and make sure that I'm not, a jerk and I don't want people to feel the way I made them feel about cats. I would actually be so fulfilled because I swear this is true. And anybody who knows me for years knows that I'm nuts about this. I truly think I care at the very highest level for my animals. I don't even use a substrate because I'm worried about the bacterial farming that would go on in a substrate. So I clean far more than most people do. I change out tubs constantly. People tell me I'm nuts about it, and that's okay. It's my own personal choice in husbandry. But if it were to ever be proven in my mind, I would be like, "Oh, look at this, dude! See, you got the lottery. Like, yeah, you got the good owner. No, but I see it as part of. In some ways, the outcome is better. I think a clean kitchen is always going to make better food than a dirty kitchen. And I think just from a emotional standpoint, we'd go, yeah, I don't want to put dirty food in my body.
Yeah.
But that's a different, just like these being living animals, putting food in your body is a different level of consideration as well, right? But I think you talk about a mechanic. I think a well-lit, organized, clean shop probably indicates a higher level of precision, right? I mean,
yeah, a mechanic. Now that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So one of my follow-up questions, what you were talking about, is there compassion in the way that you treat your snakes?
I hope so. There better be. I mean, that is a
you're taking care of them.
I still adore them. I love the nurturing standpoint. I would tell people from a health daily mental thing, for me, nurturing and taking care of something and seeing it grow and evolve in a healthy way is incredible, man. It's an incredible feeling. Absolutely.
Which is kind of, in my mind, a higher form of adoration or a higher form of a relationship, because you believe that there is no response to how you care for and treat these animals.
Yeah, I definitely see it as a one-way street. I guess the two-way street is where business comes in, and that's the return they can get back to me.
Yeah, right.
But as far as that whole thing, But as far as any fulfillment or how they give back to me is almost totally one-sided. My fulfillment comes, like, they're oblivious, in my opinion, to.
Right.
Like, they don't know any different. I'm not gonna make it suffer to show it how good it has it. That would be psychopathic, right? I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
So
Although some parents treat their kids that way.
They do that. That's for sure. And that could be psychopathic as well. But no, I take pride and joy and fulfillment in saying this is, in my opinion, people will have different opinions, but everybody should feel this way toward their animals. I think I'm giving them the very best possible scenario that I can. And I could be wrong. It has to evolve sometimes. If I learn that I'm not doing it well, then I need to change. But I firmly believe in the pride and fulfillment I get is looking around going, this is amazing. And these are beautiful. And so an unhealthy ball python generally won't eat because it could be biological. It could be, they feel, vulnerable when they eat. It's the most prone time that they are. And the snake can't dash away when it has a rodent jammed through its throat. It can't fight back. It can't do anything.
Right. Yeah.
So for a snake to eat regularly is a great show of trust and contentedness, in my opinion. So on feeding nights, when it's a successful feeding night, it's this fulfilling thing where I'm going, okay, what a great sort of check on the animals. How are they doing? And that's fulfilling to me. I love dreaming and anticipating about the future of what they can produce and what beauty is going to emerge. And I don't know another, I'm sure fish breeders probably feel that way, but I don't know another animal. And I use the word industry, but another animal hobby industry where we're literally in the middle of evolution, and there is the mathematical likeliness that you'll be able to produce something that never ever existed before this moment in time with you and that animal. And in that way, it's unique to me, man.
How big of a factor is that in your interest in breeding snakes?
That's really hard to quantify. Emotionally, it's pretty cool. Now, I don't mean it as a trophy, like I've got this and nobody else had this, but in a moment of awe and wonder, in the history, the billion years history, however many billions of our universe, that scenario never existed until right now.
Yeah.
That's a neat, awe-inspiring thing. Does it count for anything? I don't know. Is it just another white snake? It could be. Genetically, it's not, but visually it could be. But it's a neat, I don't know why that's valuable to me, but it's neat and it's interesting. As far as a trophy, does it matter? No. We've kind of we've played the mathematical game before of 200 factorial could lead to how many different iterations. Mathematically, it's very likely that we'll hit things that didn't exist before. But it's a neat thing, and you can literally sort of attach your name to, well, I did that. And that's I like I say, it's neat. It still takes somebody else to value it and buy it for it to be worth money, or whatever your goal is. So if your goal isn't money, it probably has even more value. But the realization of a long-term goal or a long-term anticipation is just a beautiful, beautiful thing, I think.
I think it's important for I love what you just said. I'm still thinking about something that you said, though, that you take care of these animals in the best way that you think is possible. And I think that's where people who think differently or interpret a snake more as a pet might question you and go, well, if he's not seeing this the way that I'm seeing this, which is these pets this is my pet, and its name is Jimmy, and I'm gonna love this pet, and it responds to me, and there's a relationship there. If he doesn't see that, then he must not treat them the way that I would treat them, or he must not treat them. And I think it's important to clarify, and I think that's important to understand that that's not necessarily the case. If you interpret this creature in a different way, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to treat them any less than what somebody would treat them if they interpret it as a pet that they have a relationship with. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud.
Yeah. And I will tell anybody who is either starting or thinking of pursuing this in a business light, even on a small scale, every pet expo I come to, almost without exception, comes a conversation of, well, I would never house my snakes in a tub. And the underlying comment there is, you're not giving them a very good life. So I've learned to have to say to people, I'm doing this the very best that I truly believe how to. And if you knew me, this next sentence will blow your mind. I will sacrifice efficiency because of how well I think I treat my animals. And I treat efficiency and time value in the highest regard, both personally and professionally. So I have to tell people there are many ways that they can live happily. This is the best way I know how to in the circumstances that I have. And I mean that not as, hey, leave me alone, give me a pass. I mean it as this is the way that I believe that I have learned from doing this hands-on at volume, at scale, over a long period of time. Mm-hmm. Now, but I have to tell people, there are many ways to do it. There's many ways that it can succeed. You got to have temperatures right. You got to have humidity right. And you got to make the snake feel comfortable enough to want to eat on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. After that, go for it. Good luck. If you think a 100-gallon aquarium is going to be better for the snake, then give it a shot. But almost invariably, when I do sell a snake to somebody who has that plan, they'll call me in 2 weeks and say, my snake isn't eating. You told me it eats regularly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And you chose to house it differently. You chose not to take my advice. I think your care for the snake and your concern for the snake will outweigh that eventually, and you'll figure it out. But no, it's not going to do well in a 100-gallon aquarium because you wanted to set up some big theater for yourself for the snake to be the star of, So that's me though.
Do you, I mean, if somebody wanted to do that, do you ease the snake into that way of life or?
Yes. And that's actually exactly what I tell them. I say, you know what, in your massive setup, go ahead and put a tub inside your setup and leave the lid ajar or leave a place where the snake can exit or come back to, and let it be. Let it explore on its own terms. Let it stay in a comfortable place that it's used to. You got 20 years with the snake. Don't throw it in a 100-gallon. You don't take, a sheltered country boy and throw him in the middle of New York City and expect him to thrive tomorrow. That's not going to work that way on his own. So ease him into it, kind of thing. And then again, nearly invariably in another 2 weeks, they call me, it fed, it ate. And then there's people that become repeat customers, and they've named the snake, and so-and-so's growing. She's beautiful and loves her world, and it's good and it's thriving because you can do it different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I say, I think their care and compassion and concern will outweigh the challenges that they face ultimately. But up front, I'm like, did you do a single thing that I suggested? Oh, look, it's not eating. Let's, okay. Yeah. And maybe better than me, go for it. But you need to do it this way, in my opinion. Now there's other things that they tell me, hey, I believe 3-ball pythons can live together, and I'd like to add this into that colony. I won't sell that snake. Right. If it's somebody that just cares incredibly and is going to have to kind of figure out the ropes with that animal in its own setting, and I can guide them through it, I'll sell them the snake. And a lot of times I tell them up front, I predict the snake is not going to eat, but you might have to find that on its own in your setup, kind of thing.
Yeah. You don't become attached to any of your snakes?
I do.
You do?
Oh yeah. I like to say I don't, but yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
What causes your attachment?
The time I put into it, their beauty. Some of them are better temperament. Like I don't know that their personality is better, but their sweeter general temperament is nice. And there's some that are just beautiful. So I play a little game sometimes because and I've done this with guitars too, so it's not just living animals that I do this to, but I'll say, hey, here's 3 high dollar snakes that I've produced, and they're all beautiful, and I want to keep them all. And you can't keep them all, both from space and business and long-term goals and all of that. You can't keep them all. So I'll tell myself, like, well, we'll just let the market decide. When one of them sells, I can put one other of them back in the holdback rack, and I'll let the other 2 sell.
Okay.
But then what I'll do, which I don't like to admit, is I might overprice them so that it's weird. Oh, they never sold. I guess I just have to, I guess they're still here. And,
but is that a conscious thing or is that an unconscious thing?
It's a little of both. I'll tell myself, okay, look, if somebody wants to buy this for $1,000, they can have it. And that will that will overcome any separation anxiety that I have. But it happens. You do get attached to them. They're friends,
Yeah. And the ones that you get attached to, you don't name them though.
I name a lot of my snakes. Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Well, first it was a fun kind of family thing to do. So we used to, just have kind of a little naming session. The other thing I found is, so all of my snakes have a unique number, and if you see it, it's pretty easy to sort out, but it would be the clutch number of that year. So then I have eggs. Actually, I haven't even checked this morning. They might be in there right now. That'll be clutch number 124, number 1 of 2024. And then each baby will be 1 through however many eggs you get. So
okay, gotcha,
124-1, 124-2.
Okay.
So that's a unique number. That's the number that the snake will be. Let me tell you, for whatever reason, my brain, I won't even say our brains, even when it comes to things like feeding and cleaning, it's way easier to go, oh yeah, I cleaned Amelie today versus, did I clean 126-3? Or 126 doesn't exist yet, but 223-1. How's 223-1 doing? This is like C3PO stuff. It's really kind of weird.
Okay, gotcha.
So even from a bookkeeping standpoint, it's a little bit easier for me to have them named. Now, I'm pointing over here because that's my hatchlings and my show stock. I don't name all the hatchlings. Those have basically a location and a number, and then a check or an X on whether they've eaten or not, or where they're at on eating and all of that.
Okay.
So there's a spectrum there as well. And then, what's really funny is that some of the first animals, when I figured out that numbering system, which is not rocket science, but when I figured out that numbering system, like the very first ones that I held back, I never did name, but I know those 2 are 1215 and 1218. And I know those 2 snakes as 1215 and 1218. So it can work. But no, I have most of my breeders I have names for.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I can't believe it's 8:34. I mean, this is the kind of, well, it's not 8:34 for you, but
no, it's not
34 for me. This is the kind of conversation that I really, really love to talk about, because I think that there are some, there's different ways. I mean, they can be all 3 of those things.
That's right.
And
that's right.
You can interpret these creatures in all different types of ways. And I like that discussion, and I like having the discussion and not being dismissive of different ways of looking at something, which is exactly what this is all about,
I think so too. And I think that's a great point for life. Just because you hear something weird, just try it. Everybody just try it. Just go, okay, tell me more about that. Why is that? Yeah. Even if it's the worst political thing you've ever heard, that just try suffering somebody for a minute.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why do you think that? What makes you land at that conclusion? And actively listen. you'd be amazed at how, I don't know. I think the world's a better place if we can do that. And that's what I love about these podcasts and these conversations.
Well, thanks again for a great conversation. And I think we should kind of wrap it up. Thanks for coming into the chat and listening. Really, again, everybody who's, and I'm looking forward to kind of the comments for this conversation for those who are listening after this. You know, I'd love to hear more from the community about the ways that they interpret their snakes.
Well, I appreciate it as well, Joe. It's always fun to kick off my Thursday with you. And like, this is like the deep dive kind of stuff that, like you said, kind of gets you going. And then us talking about snakes gets me going. So it was cool. So yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. We'll do it again next Thursday. Oh, you know what? We skipped our, we got so deep going. We skipped our sponsors. So guys, check out Creative Genetics and, of course, the promo code PROPER11 at Cold Blooded Cafe. They're running a crazy sale right now. I don't know that the discount applies on top of the sale, but it really doesn't matter. It's worth checking out whether it does or not. I promise you that. I ordered my own batch on Tuesday, matter of fact. Keith at Creative Genetics, you get an extra week on the promo schedule, man. We just blew right through it this week. My apologies. And Keith was active in the audience, but check him out, guys. Joe, I'll see you next week, man.
Have a great week, everybody. See you then.